Hi, this is Pamela Berthum, still standing, and today I want to talk about sleep. I do struggle off and on with insomnia. I typically have at least one night a week, sometimes more, where I just cannot sleep. I want to talk to you about how important sleep is and why. It's not necessarily even about what I do, although I will share that, but also just how vital it is and give you some tips and tricks to improve our sleep. We all need to improve our sleep. Adults in this day and age, with the stresses that we have and the schedules that we have and the health issues that we have, sleep is something that so many of us struggle with. And it is something that is vital to our health, regardless of how we are living throughout the day, regardless of our diet, regardless of the medicines we do or do not take, regardless of our health issues. Sleep is vital. If we have not gotten good sleep, nothing else is going to function optimally for the following day. And if we consistently do not get enough sleep, our health will go downhill and we will suffer. Sleep is one of the most powerful healing tools we have. I did some research for ages 50 plus, and because I am 50 plus, I am not 60 yet. Ideally, it's 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. And the real sweet spot is 7.5 to 8.5 hours of sleep. I have found I can function okay as long as I get at least 6 hours. But that's not ideal. Also, I want to talk about sleep trackers. If you don't have one, get one. I have my Apple Watch, which my lovely kids gave to me. Was it 2 years ago for a Mother's Day? I'm like, I don't need that. I'm never going to wear that. What do I need that for? And I love it. I keep track of my steps on a daily basis, and this is how I do that. And I also use this because it monitors my sleep at night. My particular Apple Watch, and with a lot of the sleep trackers, you are able to not only track the amount of complete sleep that you have, but also the amount of deep sleep and the amount of REM. And then mine calls it core, which is like your normal sleep. The 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, that is your total. And then we all know about our wake time. I don't want to be awake. Anyway, the other two vital things is the REM, and the most is the deep. The older we get, the less deep that we get. And getting more deep sleep is not something we can control so much as doing all the other things I'm going to talk about. If we do the other things I'm going to talk about, that is going to give us a prime mental and physical state when we go to sleep to be able to get the most optimal sleep. You tend to get deep sleep earlier in the evening when you're first going to sleep. When you first go to sleep, typically that your body's going to enter into a deeper sleep, and that's when the majority of your deep sleep is going to take place. I wrote down some statistics. You are supposed to get a minimum of 13 to 23% of your sleep to be deep. I don't typically get that. Deep sleep is one of my biggest struggles, but I have been doing better lately since I added my magnesium, which we'll talk about later. But so that's saying, so let's just take 7 hours baseline. So that means if you get 7 hours deep at 13%, which is the lowest end of the deep that you should be getting, should be 51 minutes. Okay. So that's how you can kind of, do the math, but that's how you can kind of gauge. So 7 hours, 51 minutes. 20 to 25% should be REM. So let's just say 20. 20 is an hour and 20 minutes. Deep is the only time your body can truly repair itself. All of the physical healing takes place when it comes to deep. The tissue repair, muscle recovery, your immune function, your growth hormone release, memory consolidation. So not necessarily your brain function so much as your memory compartmentalizing and consolidating everything physically. Reduced inflammation, which is huge. Your cell repair, all that takes place when you're in your deep sleep. Your brain repair mode is REM sleep. That's also very important. That's when you dream. That is when your brain is able to repair itself. Your learning and memory, emotional processing. Pacha. How important is that? As an overly emotional human, emotional processing is important to moi. Creativity, problem solving, mental sharpness. If you're like me and you have a family history of Alzheimer's, and that's always a fear kind of in the back of my head, then that's important as well. That is what you get with your REM sleep. So again, 7 hours. REM should be a minimum an hour, 20 minutes, and deep should be a minimum 51 minutes. Caffeine. Don't have any caffeine after about 4 o'clock. For me, 4 o'clock seems to be the key. It might be earlier for you. You might be able to tolerate it a little later. Magnesium. I talked about this in my previous video about what supplements I take. I take this magnesium bisglycinate. I have tried various different types. I swear by this. For me, it works best to take these about an hour or so before I'm calling it a night. I usually take these around 8 o'clock, typically about 8. They're nice little tiny little capsules. It's not a big deal. There's 3 of them. They do not mess up my stomach. I really can tell a difference. They really just seem to aid in my sleeping. I have less leg cramps. I do have an issue with leg cramps. I have multiple sclerosis. I went through chemo. They seem to help me with the leg cramps. They really just seem to really help my sleep in general. The other thing I take every night is melatonin. This is the brand that I prefer. It is by Bronson. I also put this on my previous video of what supplements I take. This is a 10 milligram dissolvable. Typically, I only take 1. When I was going through the chemo, I had done a ton of research, and I took 50 to 60 milligrams of this a night. The 1 dissolvable is 10 milligrams. Now that I am not on chemo and I'm more stable, I take 10 for the most part, sometimes 20. There's a lot of debate about melatonin. And there are also a lot of studies done by NASA when they were back researching how to have astronauts sleep deeply, especially when they were going into like deep sleeps, going to long voyages and so on and so forth. And, I have read so many papers. I have done so much research on it that I'm convinced personally that it is healthy. Remember, I am not a medical expert. I am not a doctor. I have just done a ton of research and I have determined what I feel comfortable with. And I feel like melatonin is a vital nutrient to be taking on a nightly basis. And then the last thing, don't be on devices before you go to bed. Well, in this day and age, everybody is going to be on their device before they go to bed. What I opt is my iPad, and I have it set up for it to do the blue light in the evening. I like word games because, again, I have Alzheimer's in my family, so I really want to exercise my brain. So I like that. And then I like to read ebooks. I have ebooks. I'm very much into reading, and I have just, over the years with traveling, ebooks are much better than like real books that are heavy in their weight. When you're traveling in an RV, weight is not a good thing. And honestly, I used to be like, oh, I don't like ebooks. I want real books. Well, now I can have a real book and I'm trying to like, oh wait, I have to actually turn the page, which is kind of funny, but kind of not funny. So I do like my ebooks and I will do those at night. I have my Kindle e-reader on my iPad set to the blue light so that it's not supposed to affect me as much. When I am on my Kindle and reading, that is when I end up like, okay, I'm falling asleep, and I turn it off, go to sleep. So that is it. Sleep is vital. You got to find what works for you. Oh, one more thing. This is like super valuable for me, super valuable. You know, when you're sleeping and you have like the eye mask to cover so that you don't get light coming in. So not only is this an eye mask so you don't get light coming in, but it also has built in on this sides Bluetooth speakers. I, for years, would use my AirPods, and I would put those in my ears, and my ears would hurt in the morning, and it just was not a good scenario. This has replaced that. I still use my AirPods only during the day. So when I am sleeping, I use this. I like to listen to the Bible. YouVersion is a great version of the Bible that I like to listen to, it being read. And it is great for just calming me and getting God's word in when I'm trying to go to sleep. I love to do that. And I also listen to sermons, which is great because I'm getting in a good sermon, but also it's kind of some, like a little bit on the boring side sometimes. And that helps me to go to sleep. I use this every single night, and I'm to the point that I have used it so much now that I just keep it on all night long. Then if I wake up in the middle of the night and I just wake up, my brain will start worrying about things and angsting about things. And I immediately just turn this back on. Sermon comes back on. Bible picks up wherever I left off, whatever the case may be. And it is amazing. I will then literally just go right back to sleep. So highly recommend it. What works for a lot of people is music, binaural beats. That works for a lot of people. That does not work for me. It just doesn't. Everybody's different. Find what works for you. But regardless, this is a great way to make sure that you can distract your brain, especially if you're like me and your brain wants to mess you right up. It just wants to mess you right up. My brain just wants to mess me right up. My brain is like, oh, what about this person? What about that person? Well, what about this? Well, what did you do about this? No, just no. All this to say, sleep is vital. If you're not getting good sleep every night, then regardless of your diet, regardless of your exercise, you will be suffering. Your body is unable to heal and be at an optimum. Your brain is unable to heal and be at its optimum either. So there you go. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, put them in the comments there and I will check that out. Please go ahead and subscribe. I don't have very many subscribers. I want more. I'm just kidding. I'm not. I'm actually kind of serious. So this is Pamela Berthum, still standing. See you on the flip side.